Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen out there on the internet. My name is Rob O'Dwyer, Chief Network Officer at Smart Maritime Network, and I'm delighted to be moderating our Smart Maritime Council panel discussion, which features a selection of members from our group to discuss some of the work that the Council has been doing since our formation at the start of last year. In particular, we're going to be discussing a major project that we've undertaken that has its beginnings actually at the 2019 Smart Maritime Council meeting here in Copenhagen, which actually took place in the Cobham offices where I'm standing right now. And that's based around the idea of standardizing and automating data collection and reporting for one of shipping's most ubiquitous documents, the Noon Report. Joining me today on the virtual stage are my esteemed colleagues, Mike Kiersey, who's CTO for the Dell Technologies company Boomi. We have Rui Pinto from Stolt Tankers. He's the Engineering Applications and Connectivity Specialist, according to his business card. We have Sean Crowley, also from Stolt Tankers, who's the Electrical and Automation Manager. And we have Giampiero Soncini, the CEO of maritime software company IB Marine. Thank you all for joining me, gentlemen. Quick audio test. Hello, everybody.
Hello. Hello.
Everyone's there. So, the Noon Report. Why was the Noon Report chosen by our group as a target for digitalization? A few reasons, really. When we were speaking about this in Copenhagen a year ago, we were brainstorming on some of the projects that we could do. It was quickly realized every company needs to create a Noon Report each day. So it is already an area of commonality among shipping companies. That Noon Report includes data about the operation of the ship, place to start. Nevertheless, that data has value to a shipping company, being simple or otherwise. If it can be analyzed properly and used to identify areas to optimize performance in operations, in voyage planning and maintenance, you can get value from that simple data set. However, a simple data set it might be, but there are many difficulties that exist with current approaches, which will be obvious to most of the people watching in today. Every company has to create a Noon Report, but it's an annoyance for most people because most of it needs to be done manually. And as a result, the data might not be of good quality because it's manual collection. And while the data has the potential to be valuable, getting that value from the data can be difficult and expensive because of the data quality issues and also the need to do bespoke, customized application development, etc. When it comes to the Noon Report, then, based on our discussions, the ideal scenario would look a bit like this. You would have your required data automatically collected from your shipboard equipment. That data would be in a standard format so that it can be processed. Your Noon Report would be automatically generated from that data, and the standard data set could then be imported into software applications on or off the ship that recognize that standard to perform analysis without having to pay for customized software implementation projects. Sounds simple enough, but in most cases on actual operating commercial ships today, it's very difficult to do for a variety of reasons. The data output from the shipboard equipment might be unavailable. Could be due to the age of the equipment. It could be blocked by the equipment manufacturer who wants to sell that data to the person who bought the equipment. It could be in proprietary formats that can't be processed by the shipping company without taking on an expensive IT development project. So a lot of problems in that process. But where there's a will and some enthusiastic companies willing to collaborate, we think there is a way. And over the course of this year, our colleagues at the companies on the panel here, in cooperation with some of our other council members, have been working on a project to extract data from onboard systems automatically and translate those outputs into a usable standard format. So to explain some of the work that's gone into this and some of the successes and challenges that we faced, I'm going to bring in shipping technology mastermind Rui Pinto from Stolt. Rui, I'm going to come to you first. Could you tell us maybe from your point of view, what are some of the difficulties that you face in collecting shipboard data that you've been working to improve through this project that we've done on the Noon Report?
Hi there, Mike. Rob. The main challenge that I will say is the lack of standardization of the data available on board of the ships, and that is one of the biggest challenges that we had it already, and also the collection from the source of the data itself is not easy. It's not as straightforward, especially when a vessel it's 20 plus years to get the data from any of the equipments on board. So that was the biggest issues we had for this project.
So it was legacy equipment, and trying to work with older systems when it comes to new digital data collection.
Yeah, correct. And also that everything talks a different language. Is maritime business is most of the equipment is talking in EMEA. That is a maritime standard for many years already. But inside of that standard is still a lot of things that are not they are not on the manuals anymore, and takes a lot of effort to get everything from the source and the corrected. It's quite complicated.
Okay, I'm going to come to Mike Kiersey next. Mike, working with Boomi at Dell, you got involved in this project working with Rui and Stolt to try and find ways of automating some of that data collection and translating things like EMEA, Modbus, etc., into a more usable format. You came into this as a non-maritime technology guy. What did you make of the data environment that we're working with, and what kind of challenges did you see in trying to improve this when you got involved in the project?
Yeah, thanks, Rob, and welcome everybody. I think on its initial thinking, it looked straightforward, right? You know, we're collecting a variety of different sources of data across different devices that then could be, you know, aggregated on the vessel and then sent to shore. However, doing a lot more investigations and being a non-maritime person and being a technologist and where we come from around all aspects of data integration, I echo both yours and Rui's comments, right? There's lots of different systems and no common standards, right? Some systems will be API driven, some of it will be on a Modbus, different languages, right? And being able to collect that information is one thing. Being able to make sense of it and transform it into something that's usable and more consumable downstream. There are defined standards, as in the NEMA codes that you talked about before. But there is also by provider or technology providers on the vessels proprietary codes, and understanding what those proprietary codes are, or alarms or sensors, and then translating what they mean into something that's meaningful that we can actually collect. So what seemed as a simple task actually turned out to be, you know, very complex in terms of generating everything from simulation data to working with Rui and collecting real-time vessel information. Brought, you know, a number of different challenges from, you know, accessibility to data, quality of data, transformation, and the language of that data, and then all things to do with obviously security implications as you know, as we now attach to a vessel, and how do you get that off over time. So yeah, a lot of challenges from an integration point of view that we were scratching our heads out initially.
Thanks, Mike. And interesting talking about the common language side of things. I mean, that was another important element that we were working on with the Noon report, focusing on promoting a common standard for the presentation of the Noon report data points, so which would help to facilitate the use of that data in a wider variety of applications to remove the need for customization. And in the work we've done so far on that, working again with Stolt and with other members, for the Noon report, we have created a list of defined common Noon report data points, each of which is uniquely identified based on an ISO 19848 naming structure for data collection. And that also then follows standard units in line with ISO 19848, which also references the ISO 80000 standard. So from our point of view, the idea is to try and harmonize this whole chain across, working from automation of the data collection, bringing data into a standardized format which can be recognized among shipping companies, and then being able to move from there, those shipping companies off to integrate and interact with technology providers. Giampiero, I'm going to come to you now as one of those technology providers. This concept of a wide number of shipping companies all following the same standard format for organizing the data points, even a small set of something like a Noon report. What do you think that would mean for the industry in terms of improving digitalization efforts? You're on mute for the moment there, Giampiero.
Thank you. So, you know very well that I've been an advocate of standardization in shipping for now basically 14 years, and it has been very unsuccessful. Essentially, we just had a speaker from the aviation industry, and he's talking about standardization as a matter of fact, but aviation has standardized everything more than 30 years ago. And that has allowed them to work together and streamline processes even where they are competing. There is an enormous advantage in standardizing everything, because everything becomes much cheaper while providing the same type of data, and therefore allowing data to be converted into information which is useful to the end user, which is the ship owner. So the main issue that we always have, because look at what we just said, what Rui just said. It's very easy to connect with all the deck equipment, with the VDR, with the AIS, with the ACTIS and everything else, because they all use the same standard information trend, which is the EMEA 0183. And instead, it gets very difficult to connect everything else. Where is the problem? Where is the mistake? And where is the error that we keep repeating? Is that if we don't involve the manufacturers and if we don't involve the ship owners in understanding the tremendous advantage that they would have in standardization, we're not going to go anywhere. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be confronted with the same difficulties that we have today when we try to attach on what Mike was saying. We try to collect data. So it has to be done involving the main players. And the main players are not the suppliers. It's not me. I don't have the power to go to a shipyard and tell them, or to Wärtsilä and to an engine manufacturer or Yanmar or MAN and tell them, give us all the information. It has to come from the main money maker or money giver that we have in the industry, which is the ship owner.
So, Gianpiero, do you think if a large group of shipping companies came together and agreed on following a standard in this way, you would be able to offer cheaper products to them and put resources into innovation instead of customization?
The answer is definitely yes, and I'll tell you immediately how. So we are doing, a job in digitalizing a large cruise company. Their latest vessels, they don't even need equipment on board. The data logger that we normally provide to every other ship owner. It's a plug and play that it has been done from the office, and we could immediately run all our performance solutions without going on board, but simply connecting with the equipment, because their solution is so digitalized that we didn't have to do anything. We're doing instead a fleet of tankers. Of course, here there is the problem of different age, but in terms of adapting the hardware, this shipping company will have to spend $1.5 million, because even on the latest vessels, on the very brand new one, it's okay. We basically, or the ship owner will spend zero. But on vessels which are 3 years old, you go and check the flow meters, and they don't have a digital output. So you either have to change the flow meter, or you basically have to send somebody to read the data. And this is, money literally thrown away, because at the end, the savings that you get by collecting all the information, collecting all the data and converting it into information, repays the system within 6 months. And after that, it's all capital gain.
Sean Crowley, let me come to you here. I mean, do you like the sound of what you're hearing from Gianpiero? Would you like to collaborate with your fellow shipping companies around the world to put pressure on your technology providers to offer these services in a much more affordable way based on standards that you all agreed on?
Yeah, good morning all. First of all, thanks Rob for inviting us to this. It's a big change from the last time we were in that room there last year where we started this whole process. It's been, as you know me for many years, it's been one of our challenges, and we have, for instance, as I explained to the group earlier, we tried to do this in our latest new building plans. For instance, these ships are now 4 years old, and we put it in the specifications, everything, but unfortunately it wasn't followed through as best as we would like it to be done. And I was glad to hear this morning about the D&V digital features now coming in, so that's something maybe we can add to our specifications at the beginning, because it is a challenge. It's a lot of these things the shipyards think is nice to have, and they don't, unless the class or somebody puts much focus on it, they just won't do it. No matter what we say, it's very difficult. And Yeah, this initiative, what echo what Jean-Pierre, Mike, and Rui said is for us. It's we've been trying to get the data for sure for many years, and of course, when we started this project, we picked some of the older ships and the newer ones, so just to see the differences. And I was very happy with this that we were able to get a standard output, which was the aim, and basically, the off the shelf from Boomi, which was fantastic. So yeah, I think it's a real step in the right direction, and that's the whole idea of this group, is to get more and more of the ship owners to put pressure on the manufacturers to give us a standard. Yeah, we don't, we invest a lot of money to build ships. So, I'm firmly in the camp that the data belongs to the ship owners. I know a lot of people, if the suppliers, we have some nice discussions on that. So, yeah, I welcome these initiatives and try and get more ship owners together. Yes, for sure.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be an adversarial kind of relationship. I mean, it's not a you against the equipment manufacturers. In the longer term, it should be something that is of benefit to both sides. If everybody is working with a standard type of data, that can be of benefit in the longer term of maintenance of the systems, of digitalization of the industry. There may be short-term pain for some people in the interim, but in the longer process of evolving the industry, there will be gains to be had by the equipment manufacturers and the shipping companies and application providers like IB as well.
Yes, exactly, and that was part of the group. You were in the discussions we had in Copenhagen, Rotterdam, and we had very good cooperation with the manufacturers, and it's common. I think is a common ground for all of us. Yeah, they win with the extra services they can provide, fuel efficiency, things like that with the data. We have to meet halfway, and with this project especially, with the likes we have. Mike from Boomi and IB, but also from Varsla. We had very good assistance from them, and it was really interesting to get all these big players together. Normally this doesn't happen. Yeah, so we were very happy to be part of it.
Thanks, Sean. Mike, maybe can I ask you then for maybe a few more details on what exactly you did with the Boomi Atom, which is the technology that you're working with. Do you want to explain that to people who wouldn't really understand what that is and what you did with Stolt in terms of connecting with their onboard equipment?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So Dell, for those who don't know us, so Dell Boomi, we are an integration platform as a service. So we have a platform that runs in the cloud that allows us to build, through the use of low code, an intuitive canvas of dragging icons and shapes onto it for us to integrate from source to target of data. As part of our platform, so that is the design time, we have a runtime, so we have the concept of a Boomi Atom. So think of that as a small Java runtime installable that you can put on an edge gateway or on a server or inside a virtual machine. And that is the execution engine. So from the design palette that we build the integration and collect all the data. So that will then be pushed down to the Boomi Atom, which was on Rui's vessel. And what we're doing is we're now listening. We're now listening for a set of instructions. We're listening for a set of data objects or streams of data that we can collect and translate those into some of the defined standards or already outlaid. And what we're doing is we were capturing some of that. At the same time, if I look at the Noom report that we built, actually we were also at the same time collecting information from Vorsilla's the engines. So we're using APIs to collect that information. We're also using IB Marine, and we were also collecting weather information. So multiple sources from multiple different areas of the shipping platforms. Not just from the ship, but externally to that, and bringing that all together. So the Boomi Atom was the central focal point of aggregation of that information or that data. And then what we were able to do is we built a front-end application form, which looks very much like the Noom report. And actually what we were able to do is store some of that information in a database in real time as data's coming through. And at the point of saying, I want to submit the form, actually what we did is we pulled those various details in to populate the form at that given period of time, with a view that we would then package that up either into a flat file or a CSV file, or make it available as part of an API that other consumers downstream could actually leverage that. So our platform's sitting on top from a design perspective, and being able to build the necessary integration between the systems, and then the atom on the ship, which was that aggregation point for our platform.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I might bring in Rui here. Rui, without talking about then Java runtime and etc., from a shipping perspective, what the work that you've done with Dell, what has it changed for you in terms of time spent in organizing data and organizing reporting on ship?
So, from my point of view as a shipping company, then is using how we have developed this one is much easier, because then we don't have. I will need to have a one IT data scientist with me 24/7 to be able to tell him what is an EMEA sentence, which parameters he needs to read out, what he needs to convert, and how he needs to send it out. And that costs a lot of money and costs a lot of time, not only for me, but also for the data scientist that needs to sit by me. Using a common platform where we can dump there all the type of communication, all protocols, doesn't matter whatever is, and the platform do that for us, saves me a lot of time and money. And then I can invest my time in going further, not only stay on that little piece of the puzzle.
So if you were to make a request of all of your suppliers at the moment to kind of come and meet you halfway on some of this and make changes to the way they supply equipment, what would be your first request that you would make of them, your equipment suppliers for shipboard equipment?
For me, if for the new equipment, that would be great if the equipment can already output in a standard way that everybody can read it from there. That is fine. And if not, then use a platform like Boomi, for example. Just put a little Boomi atom there, and then from there we can take the data that we need without having to use extra resources and money, of course.
And in terms of promoting this idea to other shipping companies to try and build some of this critical mass of people all on the same page asking for this, I mean, is there any downside from the shipping company's point of view for different companies to use a standard format for this? I mean, I know people have their own new report formats that they need for charters, they need for different parts of the company, etc. But you can still work with standard data sets below that. The report that's generated from a standard data set can be in any format that you want. Is there a downside you think that would put shipping companies off maybe looking to work with other shipping companies and following standards in this regard?
From my point of view, I will say no. I think it's a win-win situation for the shipping companies, because everybody will have the same source of the information. Then what you can use for multiple suppliers, and saves you a lot. And we as stock tankers, we have a big organization, but if you have 20 vessels on your fleet, you don't have money to have a full IT team working for you. So I think this is the best for the shipping companies, not only for the big players like us, but also for the small ones. And then we can everybody move forward. And then it's also that makes the life of the technical department, for example, much simple. Then we can focus on the more important things that can happen any day, anytime.
So you can spend your time on interesting issues and valuable issues rather than just moving data from one place to another.
This is also important. It's also valuable, and it's also very nice to move data from one side for the other. But if you do
that automatically and you didn't have to spend time and resources.
Exactly. Yeah, and especially if you don't have a IT background, if you have a technical background but not IT background, it's very difficult to manage this alone. And if you don't have money, is another story. It's even more difficult to manage this.
Thank you. Gianpiero, let me bring you back in. In terms of dealing with any naysayers on these kind of issues, people who are distrustful of other colleagues in the industry and are not that keen on sharing the kind of data formats that they might use. I mean, what would you say to them? What's the way to make the case for this kind of standardization and collaboration?
I would tell them that essentially the whole IT world has been based on creating something that everybody could really share. You know, the biggest failures that Apple had when they created their hardware at the beginning was that they decided not to share anything with them, and Microsoft did exactly the opposite and conquered the whole world. Now you can discuss for ages about what Apple has done after, but certainly Apple has not been the creator of Microsoft Word or Excel, which are now ubiquitous everywhere, and simply because they decided to open the gate. And when Apple changed the approach and started to allow programmers to use their platform and start working, that's when they boomed and they created the app world, which became, again, then they tried to control it. Controlling is a short time feature. If you want to control everything, you'll end up by basically limiting the capacity of expansion that you have. And I believe that when a manufacturer of anything thinks that he can keep the data all for himself to sell them the data to the buyer, he's basically going to squeeze himself a lot, because there's going to be another provider of a similar equipment which will think differently, which will allow data to be available, and therefore you will, as an owner, I will be able to call several suppliers and tell them, I have this data, what can you do with it? And of course I will always prefer to buy something which is open rather than something which is closed, and if I want to do anything with it, I always have to pay a fee to the supplier. Think about, in computer terminology, I now have API. If I don't write a software which is API compliant, it is a worse software compared to one which is. Because with API, I free my users, I free my customers to do their own things if they want, without having to come to me all the time. So we should apply the same ideas and concept of the aeronautical industry and of the information technology industry, even to the manufacture of hardware in shipping. Let them open, we are not stealing their secrets. We simply make the data coming from their hardware available to everybody in a standard format.
There's actually a question in the chat that I can see there, which kind of relates to exactly what you just said. What do you do with the data? Do you provide analytics as well? And the point of this is that we don't do anything with the data. If the data is in a standard, then any application provider can create whatever kind of innovative application they want using those standards, and then it's up to the market to provide the most interesting and valuable applications then to shipping companies.
Of course, but this is the advantage. Then the owner of the asset, so the ship owner, the shipping company, can utilize IB or any other company to perform the analytics. And they are not stuck to say, okay, if I want to have information about the fuel consumption, I must absolutely go to the manufacturer of the flow meter or to the manufacturer of the engine, and therefore pay a premium. You simply collect the data, and then you find whoever you want to convert the data into the information that you want. And this is what IB does, but others do, and it's free for competition. And remember, competition have two advantages: low price, better products.
Sean, I might just bring you in here. I mean, we're kind of preaching to the converted maybe a little bit here, particularly in terms of the value of technology and data. In terms of the wider management at shipping companies, I mean, from your own experiences and maybe elsewhere, I guess in some circumstances it's quite hard to make a convincing argument as to why spending money on this doodad or this gizmo and extracting data in a standard format or getting it into a standard format is worth the company's money. Do you find that struggle to have that conversation, or are people starting to wake up from it as people become more tech savvy generally?
No, I think they are. Yeah, that's for sure. As Gian Piero mentioned, this the future is, and it's already happening. Is the additional services we get. All shipping companies have their own various suppliers that they use. For instance, one of the main things for us, we've been trying to get a standard from our ships today to, we use the DNV Storm Geo Veracity platform, and to get the automated data into there. That was also part of the test we did a couple of years ago, and these sort of things. So then companies can come whatever. I know Jean-Pierre mentioned Apple App Store. Yeah, that's the vision that I could see happening. Then the companies can pick whatever they like. As Jean-Pierre mentioned, IB, Kongsberg, all sorts of different things, and I think that's the way it will happen. Yeah, it must.
Thanks,
then it's very easy to do with the standard data, and then just like you go in and buy an app or a game today, that's the same thing.
Mike, we're coming towards the end of our time here, but I'd be interested just maybe if you had any kind of lessons learned from working with Boomi in other industries, as outside of maritime, which you do as well. Where maybe some of the big opportunities you think for us as an industry to move forward on some of this kind of stuff.
I think industry as a whole is picking up on integration, and most of that's been driven by new platforms, the ubiquitous access to data, very much what you've heard today. Data is coming more and more important, and how you collect, analyze, store, and protect that data is critical. I think for us across industries, we see more organizations moving, some of their capabilities to cloud, and how do I get there with ease and speed? Also, it's not just a case of, applying it to one provider of this data for the Noom report. It's actually, once we've collected that, how can we build that data fabric to distribute this across the enterprise? So some of that data will be important for our ERP solutions. What about our supply chain? What about resource planning? What will it give us in terms of our sustainability, reporting, etc.? So the data that we're collecting is important, not just for what we're trying to achieve today and what we see and what the reports, but actually drive other efficiencies through the whole of the business processes, right? For shipping, and even across some of the big industries that we do work with, the need to speed, right, and the time to value around how data can improve customer services, customer interaction, better responsiveness to customers, and actually drive down overall operational costs, improving efficiencies internally, but actually really getting to the point that data is healthy, it's clean, it's trusted, and we can get a single view of, if that's a partner or it's a customer or it's an employee, and having that viewed across all of our applications, right? Customers are now realizing that we can't have all the silos. We need to unlock them wherever they may be, either on a vessel or on land. And how do we mix some of that information together, and what will our data scientists be able to look into? So a huge push across the industries, right, to use data or better leverage data for their long-term sort of digital goals.
Okay, thank you, Mike. We've just come to the end of our time now. So I'm going to thank all of my panelists very much for talking to you now. Thank you for joining the panel, and also for all the work you've done with the Smart Maritime Council over the last year. For any of the audience, if you'd like to learn more about the project and the standardized data set that we're working on, please get in touch. We'd love to have more shipping companies get interested in this idea and help to build this kind of critical mass of companies moving in the same direction. It's only by working together and collaborating on areas of mutual benefit that we think the industry will be able to truly make progress. We are also planning to run a pilot project of standardized data collection involving Stolt and also OSM in Singapore, a couple of our shipping company members. So stay tuned for some information about that coming up in the near future. So with that, I'll thank everyone for their time. We're going to be breaking for lunch now. So please find someone to have a virtual sandwich with somewhere in the online platform. And you can look out for the breakout session starting from 2 p.m. where essentially you can, just like myself and my colleagues here on the panel have been having an online chat, you can have a private online chat in small groups with our roundtable hosts. So get involved, go talk to some of your peers, discuss some of these issues, and we'll try and move some of these things forward together. So thank you very much for your time, everybody. Thank you, Gianpiero, Sean, Mike, and Rui. Have a great lunch, everybody, and we'll see you all shortly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.